All right, Coach Ron Balog, I am so happy to have a chance to come up on the hill here in Freedom. A lot of great memories doing play-by-play. Obviously, relatives, nieces, nephews who have gone through this school system, people in administration, teachers. My sister at one time worked in the cafeteria. And before we talk any football, as I was down there on the turf at this wonderful school district, I was overlooking just everything, the fall foliage and watching the buses doing what they're doing. And I was thinking about the people who work behind the scenes, those people who clean the school up, janitorial services, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, the teachers, the administrators, the teachers' aides. It really does take a team, doesn't it, Coach?
Rob, you're 100% right. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you for coming here and talking to me and wanting to know more about the Freedom Program. It's fantastic. I would say yes, I talked since day one, since I got here, about it takes a family. And for us to be successful on a Friday night, it takes administrators, parents, players, coaches, band, cheerleaders, parents. It takes everybody. Every group, shareholders group has to be represented, and we all have to be on the same page.
Listen, I absolutely, for some reason, have always had a very special place in my heart for freedom. My grandfather had a business in this town. The mother of my son, Tyler, grew up in this town, so it really means a lot to me. So let's just talk about some history. Obviously, Jimbo Covert Field, went on to play at the University of Pittsburgh, won a Super Bowl with Mike Ditka, Danny Raines from Hopewell. But some of the players that I remember going back to, the great J.D. Haglin, they won the section. He graduated in '74, had a great season in '73. But Chuck Williams was another great player that I saw. Matter of fact, the very first Penn Ohio game I did, he was the guy. 1991, Jeff Belts, tremendous speedster, great football player, now an administrator, I believe in the Moon District, was Beavers football coach, went to Geneva. There is so much history in freedom, but it just takes time getting back. Since 2018 when you won the section, and before that it was 77. So it is going to be a thought process. Look, you've been around some successful situations, spent time at Quaker Valley, offensive coordinator at North Catholic. So it's a process, is it not?
It is a process, and it's one that you have to keep reminding yourself and everybody involved that it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. And it's funny you mentioned J.D. Haglin.
He was my hero as a kid.
I was Saturday night in Freedom. They had a reunion. That 1973 team had a reunion, and they were kind enough to invite me. And so there were close to 20 guys there from that 1973 team that I got to know, and I had met JD at the alumni football golf outing in the summer. So it was great to talk to those guys and listen to their stories and listen to some glory days of Freedom football.
Listen, I remember when Freedom actually had a main street, many, even long before J.D. Haglin was doing what he was doing. But I just love this town, going back to the history of Valvoline and obviously Norfolk Southern, big fan of the railroad. It's a blue-collar town and just really good, hard-working people. So let's talk about this program. You had a tough loss against Mohawk, but Mohawk and Neshannock are the top of the heap as far as the conference is concerned. You got a couple of games that you can really go out on a high note. Conference games, you've got Beaver Falls, Coach Nardone, and then of course New Brighton to wrap it up. But man, when I look at this conference, it's always been one of the most competitive, and you've got Western Beaver in there, you've got Elwood City in there. This is a very competitive conference, isn't it?
It is very competitive, and I like to think it's one of the best 2A conferences in the state. And I think what a testament to that is if you look at the programs like Neshannock and you look at Mohawk, Western Beaver, Beaver Falls, right? One of the things is that those programs have always had continuity and stability.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we're striving for here. And Danny Bradley, if you look at his second year at Elwood City, he's got some great things going up there. Tony Cowlery is in his second year at New Brighton. But it takes time.
Well, look what
and Bill Hand is new at Riverside.
Yeah,
it takes time.
Both New Brighton and Riverside are going through the growing pains. You've got some wins under your belt this year. But that game recently, I was reading an article in Beaver County Times, you said it perfect, a couple of pick sixes, and you can't have that many penalties, especially in the fourth quarter against a team that's that explosive. It's going to cost you, right?
Yes, it will. It will. You can't turn the ball over, and you can't have the number of penalties that we did and expect to be competitive with a program like Mohawk.
So where are you right now? Your thought process, first year head coach, what you've seen thus far. Obviously, off season so important, but moving forward to get that grit and that tradition back with this great program.
Well, what I see is I see a bunch of kids, a roster of 36 kids who all want to work hard and who all care. And I think you have to start there. So if you have the care and the buy-in, then I think you're going to be okay in the future. And what I would say is that, you know, there's some good leadership, and I've just had a great time since mid-March when I got here.
Well, I know one thing. When I look at where you are headed in the next 2 weeks, you really have a great opportunity to go out on a positive note, right?
Yes, I think we do, and I think our players will respond, and we'll have a great momentum turn into the off season.
I love when people just come into the office and have a seat to watch the show in progress. So it's always nice to have a Freedom Bulldog fan with your back, always the first thing when it comes to their mind and your Pat Pack. A lot of friends in this part of the world. Beaver Falls comes off a nice run against Elwood City, but one thing Nick Nardone has, even though he hasn't had the season he would like to have had, he's got a lot of speed on that football team.
Yes, always have a lot of speed. And look, they're well coached. Nick does a great job. His staff does a great job. They do the fundamentals really well. And that nothing more speaks to that than they've been in the Whitfield Championship 4 straight years in a row in Double A. You can't do that if you don't do things the right way.
Well, I saw that Young and Isaiah locked up for an 80-yard touchdown pass. So your team, Lachey and Young, your team has a chance to do some big stuff on the field when need be, right?
Well, I think we do, and it's just putting all the pieces together on the same play, right? It's just all 11 guys working as the unit to get it done.
So what do you think about being in Freedom and Tradition your first year? A place you want to hang out for a couple of years, hopefully?
Yeah, I'd like to. Certainly, I'd like to be here. And you know, this gentleman that walked in behind us is Guy Ward, and that's our offensive line coach and defensive coordinator. And Guy's an alum here, started coaching here in 1985, and you know, has told me about a lot of those really great teams that they've had here at Freedom. So yeah, I'd like to be here. I'd like to provide some stability and continuity, and put Freedom back at the top.
All right, listen, I may do one more here today before I head to KDK Radio, because anytime somebody says a lot of the great teams in history, my love of King football, WPIL, I got to take a little bit more time and talk football. Coach, thank you, much respect. Thanks for letting me come here today.
Yeah.
And hey, I know you'll get this thing going in the right direction.
Well, thanks, Rob. Thanks for coming out to Freedom.
I love my Bulldogs. We'll come back. One more real quick one. Don't forget this Allegheny Health Network Sports Medicine Friday night game of the week. We'll have Pine, Richland, and Woodland Hills, and Coach Wilson and Coach LaDon will join me on the Coons Market Black and Gold Sunday show right after the local news at 11. Back with more at Freedom High School in just a moment.